What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Girl Who Talks Sports, a podcast where we talk sports and other girly things. I am Sam Cardona, and thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. We are, it's weird. Like, I came back last week from vacation, but this is the first time in like a month that I've used my camera. I haven't used my camera in so long, so this is very exciting for me. I'm super excited for this week's episode. We have a very specific type of episode for you guys this week. I brought on my best friend, Katherine Cavanaugh, who currently lives in the country of Japan. And with the Olympics coming up honestly in just a few weeks, I decided that I wanted to have her on so that she can explain to you guys what's going on in Japan right now in terms of COVID, what the Olympics means for the country, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a very educational podcast this week. But before we get into all of that, guys, we'll do our regular plugs, and then I have some news. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever it is that you get your podcasts from. Please make sure to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That is very helpful. And also don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this video if you are watching on the YouTube channel at The Girl Who Talks Sports. We're getting back into the swing of this now. Like I'm feeling like we were at a bit of a lull, so now we're moving back towards it. And finally, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at TGWTS Podcast. And you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Girl Who Talks Sports. And some exciting announcements. We have new merch. I have designed 4 new logos for The Girl Who Talks Sports merch. I'm super excited. You can click the link in the show notes and the description, all that good stuff. It is there. It is live. We have hoodies, long sleeves, baseball tees, crew neck sweatshirts, t-shirts, everything that you can imagine. We have it in our 4 new fun graphic tee inspired logos. I was so excited to give this out to you. I've been working on it for a really long time. So please tell your friends, tell your family, just another quick little plug. My birthday is coming up. So if you guys have people with birthdays coming up, this is a great gift, anniversary, whatever. Just go out, just buy the merch. It's great. And it helps support our show. Last time I put out merch, you guys delivered. It was fantastic. And I bought this new microphone, which is fantastic. So please make sure to buy. It just helps the show. It helps provide for me for things that, equipment is expensive, guys. It is no joke. So please make sure to check that out. And I appreciate each and every single one of you who will buy the merch. So thank you guys so much. Before we get into our interview with my bestie girl, Katherine, we are going to hear a quick word from Instacart. Imagine it was possible that local fresh groceries could be delivered right to your front door. You would have so much free time, you could listen to more of The Girl Who Talks Sports. Instacart gives you unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Better than what those other guys who nickel and dime you do whenever you use their app. Instacart can deliver to your front door in as little as 1 hour. You're not even tied down to one store. You can shop multiple stores, find deals in your area to save some money, and shoppers hand select your items based on your preferences. So don't worry, they'll keep your gentle items like your eggs safe too. To start your 14-day free trial, click the link in the show notes so Instacart knows that you were sent by me, The Girl Who Talks Sports, and this also helps to support our show. Instacart, never step foot in a grocery store again. All right, everyone, so please give a nice, warm TGWTS welcome to my best friend on her podcasting debut, Katherine Cavanaugh. All right, everybody, welcome back. We are here with a very special guest this week. I'm very excited to intro you guys to her. It is one of my very best friends we met in high school. She is just my sunshine in my life. I'm so happy to have her on. Katherine Cavanaugh, thank you so much for coming on The Girl Who Talks Sports.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to talk to you and share whatever questions you have.
Yeah. So the reason why I decided to have Catherine on the podcast this week is because she currently lives in Japan. And Japan is obviously where the 2020/2021 Summer Olympics are taking place. And Catherine has very knowledgeable about a lot of things, because I want to have her on so she can kind of explain what's going on in Japan right now in terms of COVID and everything, and the steps that are being taken in the Tokyo Olympics currently. So we'll start basic. Catherine, why don't you share with everyone where you are in Japan and kind of like how you got there?
So, I live in Ishikawa, Japan, which is, if you look at a map of Japan, it's on like the western coast of Japan. So, if Tokyo is like East Coast, I'm like completely on the opposite side. Um, it's very rainy here, and it's obviously as not as big as like Tokyo or Osaka, but it's a kind of like suburban. There's a lot of rice fields, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So what I do is I am an ALT, which is an assistant language teacher on something called the JET program. And yeah, it's like this lengthy process that you go through, and it gives you an opportunity to teach English or any other language in Japan. Placements are random. And yeah, so I came here July, the end of July in
2019.
2019. Yeah, so this is going to be my second year here, and I have contracted for a third year, so I'll be going home next year in 2022.
Yeah, so Catherine has been there since pre-COVID started. So she experienced Japan life before COVID started, and then obviously experienced Japan life once COVID began. So I kind of want you to explain what life has been like in COVID times in Japan, because it is very different than what's going on here in the United States.
Yes. So I had about 6 months of like good time here before
Here
before
for a good
things.
time, not a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Before things really like hit the fan. And so they didn't really kind of hit the ground running like a lot of other countries did. We kind of were following behind as far as like, oh, I noticed schools were closing like overseas in like America or Europe or something.
Right.
And then I don't know how long it took after that, but then schools closed here. But the thing is that teachers don't get time off really. So the schools were closed to students, and the students were like learning at home. But teachers still had to come in to school every single day, and we didn't get like work from home until May. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we only got work from home for a month, and then the schools opened back up in June, and we had everything as far as like the differences between America and Japan, like everything, if you were to like come here from America, it would seem like everything is completely normal. Like they're all the businesses, like some businesses obviously when things were like the like when it first started, some businesses obviously had to close and like close for good,
Right.
but most places were still like kept open. It was just like shorter hours, like don't serve alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Schools were still open, like parks were still open, public areas, like they were only closed for like a few months, but then when everything like reopened, nothing has closed back down since it's been reopened since like last summer. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Not great. It hasn't been great.
I know it
Over
has.
over the course of like over a year at this point, Catherine's kind of been updating us, like me and our other friends, about like what's going on. And it just like compared to here, during peak COVID, you're like, oh my God, like everybody's just in shambles. But obviously the United States has kind of been coming back. Like I'm no longer wearing a mask when I go in places. And that's obviously not the case in Japan. And with the Olympics coming around, wait, before we get into the Olympics, I kind of want to let people know what the vaccine rate is right now in Japan, because a lot of people here are vaccinated. Like in New York City or New York State, at least 70% of
Mhm.
people have received at least one COVID vaccine. So what are the vaccine rates in the country of Japan right now?
Well, vaccine rollout is particularly slow,
Yeah.
especially in Asian countries. I don't want to speak for every Asian country because I don't live everywhere, but I know like South Korea and Japan for sure. For Japan, it has a lot to do with past bad experiences with vaccines. But yeah, the we started officially vaccinating people April 12th. And that was we started vaccinating like medical workers.
Mhm.
And then oh wait, that's a total lie.
I'm believing
So
everything you're telling me right now.
we started vaccinating medical workers in February,
Mhm.
okay? And then we started vaccinating 65 plus people in April, and we're still not done with that. It's
Right.
also because there's the population here is an inverse triangle. So the biggest population are the oldest people here.
Right. Right.
And so currently, as of like, mm, like I would say about a week ago. So it probably hasn't changed that much, but I have a little statistic here.
Oh,
Um,
so
the
prepared.
Japan National Domestic Vaccinations. um, the first dose, just dose one. So that means just a single dose.
Right.
Less than 20% have received it in all of Japan, and less than 10%, so 8%, have received both doses of the vaccine. Um, we have no idea, like anyone below 65, it's kind of like, you know, pray and hope that you get lucky.
Yeah.
I have been put in a very lucky situation where, as a teacher, I have been put on a waiting list that if there are leftover vaccines, I can get called up by like my vice principal, and they'll be like, they have vaccines at so and so place in your city. You have to be there within 40 minutes. Do you want to go? And so
Mhm.
that's the case. But for like the general population, nobody is vaccinated. Not a lot of people here want to get vaccinated either, which is also the other issue.
Right.
So that makes things a little sketchy for the summer situation here.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And the like thinking of the whole thing, it's like this is not just a state, this is a country. And I don't know what the percentage is of the United States, but people are getting vaccinated, and it is available to everyone at this point in
Mhm.
time. So the fact that you as a young, healthy individual just happens to be, you can get the vaccine only because of your occupation. So it's
Exactly.
not the best situation to be in at June of 2021. Like that would have
Yeah.
been different if it was earlier this year, but it's definitely been, not the best dispersion of vaccines in Japan.
Yeah. And what I want to add on to that real quick is that it's not just that vaccines are unavailable. Like even prior, at least in the US, I know obviously because I all of my friends like live in the US. Prior to the vaccine being out to everyone, you guys had COVID tests readily available.
Right. Catherine's
Yeah.
never gotten a COVID test before.
I
Let's
have
make
never
that
been
clear.
I've never had any type of swab stuck up my nose before. Like they are extremely rare because people, if someone comes in and is like to a hospital here
Mhm.
and is like, I think I have COVID. I have all the symptoms. I've had a fever of this degree for this many days. I have like this symptom, this symptom, this symptom that all align with COVID. Um, they are extremely frugal and wary about giving people COVID tests because then they have to report it. and they don't want to report it because they don't want the cases to look very high. And so
Right.
they tell the person, well, just go home and stick it out, basically. And so people have been, instead of going to hospitals, which is where it would be administered for free,
Hmm.
um, they have started going to private companies, and private companies charge. And it's about, it could be anywhere depending on the company you go to, or I guess also like where you're located, anywhere from 150 to like $400 to get a COVID
US
test.
dollars.
I would say then if it was US, it was like round that down by like $5 to $10.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
not great.
it's not
Not great.
exactly, yeah.
Like the fact that I was getting COVID tested like once a week just because I have anxiety and I wanted to get COVID tested once a week was readily available at the Walgreens around the corner from me. Meanwhile, Catherine is now, over a year and a half into this pandemic and has never gotten a COVID test before, which is absolutely mind blowing, especially for a lot of people here. So, to get into the sports aspect of all of this,
Mhm.
right? Tokyo Olympics are taking place in Japan, obviously. You don't live in Tokyo, but living in Japan, what kind of feelings have you gotten from the fact that so many people are going to be in this country? People are going to, most likely athletes are not going to be performing in masks. There's going to be other people that are not going to be performing in masks while they'll be vaccinated. Like, what do you think like this Olympics is going to affect in Japan with it happening like in
Uh,
the next few weeks?
it's so I want to start off by saying that cases had been going down recently because we had just come out of something called a state of emergency.
Right.
Um, it's a load of bullshit. So states of emergency, like nothing changes when they actually like instate a state of emergency. So obviously when you hear that, you think like things are closing, like schools are closing, work from home, like
Mm-hmm.
don't go out. Well, um, it's more like, hey, restaurants have to close by 8 to 9 p.m. and don't serve alcohol past this time, and try and work from home. But the thing is that so many companies here can't do that. And so we just came out of a state of emergency. Cases in Tokyo had been going down, but they're back on the rise. And this is like nobody is even in the country yet. And so with the Olympics happening, I would probably feel a little bit better if they were like, oh, no spectators at any of these events. The
Right.
Olympians and their like crew coming in cannot leave the Olympic Village. They have to be tested before going on to any type of premises. Like really strict protocol to make sure 100% that they're doing everything they can to not spread COVID or get COVID. Because like imagine you're an athlete and you get COVID.
Not great.
Like you just spent 4 to 5 years training to try and overcome this massive obstacle of COVID last year to just come here and get it anyway because we don't have like Japan doesn't have herd immunity yet. Nobody, we're not vaccinated enough to even be towing at that line of herd immunity. So, for example, the Ugandan soccer team, I think, came in to Japan recently, and already four of the people, I think one or two athletes, I didn't read the full article, but like four people from the team, either the crew or the actual athletes, already have COVID. Like they got COVID when they got here.
Oh my
Um,
God.
they are letting spectators go to the events,
Mm.
so they're allowing like almost 10,000 people to be in venues. And none of the young people, like most of these people that are going are probably young-ish. You're not going to see many 65 plus people going to these events, and they're the
Right.
only people that are vaccinated.
Yeah.
So it's like you are literally setting yourself up for like the biggest wave we have seen. Every wave we've actually had prior to this has been bigger and bigger and bigger. Like we haven't had like, oh, a first wave and then maybe the second one was higher, but then like the second and third and fourth and fifth or whatever had
Right.
been
Yeah.
lower. they've all been record-breakingly high. So this is just like not good because their protocol is so weak that Olympians can come into the country, they bypass the 14-day quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
and they aren't just going to the Olympic Village right after they land. Some of them are going to venues. Some of them are going to be interacting with other teams, other people, like volunteers that are going to be helping out. And so they're coming in contact with people that have been in Japan. They're coming in contact with other people from other countries. And so it's just a hot mess of germs, and you don't know who's got it, who doesn't have it, and there is no mandatory contact tracing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So no one has to really know. Like, you don't have to go up to someone and be like, hey, this person had COVID, you should probably get tested. Like, none of that happens. So I can't see it going any other way besides down. We are like spiraling the fucking drain. Like, it's not going to be good at
Yeah.
all. I'm waiting. I'm just waiting because I'm hoping maybe like it's 3 weeks out basically. We have
Yeah.
3 weeks.
It's
They've
so
changed.
close.
It's so close, and they've already changed. They were like, oh, we can serve alcohol, and then they're like, wait, no, maybe we don't want to serve alcohol, and
Mhm.
so they're still going back and forth, and it's so hard because so many people here don't want the Olympics to happen. Like 80% of the population here don't want the Olympics to happen. But the thing is, once you contract to host the Olympics, the only people that can cancel it are the International Olympic Committee. So the actual host country can't cancel the Olympics. So,
Wow, I didn't know that.
yes. And so the IOC, the head, I forget his name, but he's a dickbag, is like, well, we need to make some sacrifices to let the let the Olympics happen. Like, we have to give the people hope. You are literally sacrificing an entire country's health, the entire healthcare system, which is already spread so thin. There's doctors and nurses working 80-hour weeks. Like, they're making so many mistakes with vaccines right now because they have been pushed to their limits. We've had to like throw out so many vaccines because people have just forgotten to put them back in their designated fridges. Um, so yeah, the IOC is like, well, we're going through with this. And so like Japan itself has no choice in the matter.
Right. Which is so horrible. And something that I didn't think about when you mentioned the Olympic Village is the fact that something that I just know that happens, it's not a secret, is that Olympians a lot of the time get with other Olympians. So there's a lot of cross contacting between people within the village, which might be okay if they're all vaccinated. However, a lot of people going into each other's rooms and being with one another and that kind of thing. Also, we're not social distancing here. It's not really all that great. We're spreading germs around all over the place. So that's another thing that I didn't even think about until just now.
It,
That's
they have actually they've already, what's the word I'm looking for? Taken that into account.
okay.
There's actually I forget what it was, but it's like a condom brand here that usually gives out condoms to all of the that's like their handout. That's the thing they do. And they give it out to the people in the Olympic villages, and they
Uh-huh.
give it out to the people, like the spectators, I guess. They have like stands or whatever. I don't know how it works. But I don't know if they're not going to do that, or the like committee has told athletes already, like, do not partake in any type of hooking up,
Mm-hmm.
please. So, and the other thing is that I just remembered is that they're going to be vaccinating. They're going to try and vaccinate all of the volunteers, and like the crew of the Olympics, but like it it shouldn't be like that. I mean, it's like, I know that it's like in the best interest, but like if you're letting all these other people in anyway, and like 5% of the people spectating the Olympics are vaccinated.
Yeah, though that's definitely not great. I was expecting spectators to not be allowed in. Like that's what I was thinking. But the fact that it was only recently they announced that, right? That they were going to allow people to come in to watch. So that just adds more people and more of a chance
And
to
it's
get
not just
sick.
like there's going to be spectators at the Olympics, but there's also going to be people in Tokyo. Like,
Yeah, just people, just in general.
it's not just like they're going to be like, oh, well, the Olympics are going on. Let me stay away. It's definitely not going to be like that. There's going to be so many more people that have just kind of accepted the fate of Japan. I know friends who have talked to coworkers who are like, well, I'm not vaccinated already. I'm just kind of like accepting my fate, who aren't going to get vaccinated because they're like, well, what's the point? And it's kind of this this mentality of like, well, like keep we can't keep stopping for these like state of emergencies just to like have nothing happen, and just to be like, oh, we're gonna lift it and then have everything just be the same anyway. And so
Mhm.
so many people are already just like, fuck it, and like they just don't care. Like I know so many people, both Japanese and um like expats or like foreigners who live here, who are just like, I can't keep doing this. Like I want to go places, I want to travel. I haven't been Oh, well, like, I haven't been home in like over a year.
For reference, I have not seen Catherine since December of 2019.
Yeah, so I haven't been home. Like the borders are completely closed in Japan. Like the only way you can come in right now is if you are a resident of Japan, or as of right now, an Olympic athlete. Like those are the only two reasons you can get into this country, and clearly it's that way for a reason. Like they do not Japan needs to get their shit together, and they don't. And they're going to have this event and it's going to explode everything, and then it's just like I can't see them I can't see other countries allowing people from Japan into their country after this happens.
Yeah, and thinking about it, the fact that the Olympics is a worldwide thing, people from other countries are going to come in, like, like you said, the Ugandan soccer team's already coming in with COVID. Like they're going to literally be bringing in people from all over the world to places that, like Japan, might not have as much access to vaccines. And it's just going to be, I just can't see any of this going well. And I know that you also mentioned to me a few weeks ago that they want to pull medical staff, but your hospitals in Japan are stacked to the brim the way that they were in the United States like last May. So they're pulling medical staff that's already working, like you said, 80 hours a week to go to the Olympic villages. But it's like, well, what about the people that are still jam packed in the hospitals?
Exactly. So they have been trying to pull like volunteer medical help for months, and it would be like, oh, like we got 1,000 new recipients, and then it would be like, oh, never mind, like 900 dropped out. And then like the same with volunteers too. Like it would be like, oh, we've had people, now we don't. Oh, we have people, nah, they dropped out. Like
Right.
it's just, people understand how big and bad and scary this is, but it's also like this is their home in a way, and I understand it from both points of view. And I understand people who don't live here, for one, who aren't consuming any of this type of news because you don't live here. Like what's the point? You're probably just like, oh my god, the Olympic trials are happening. Like
Exactly.
I know the Olympic trials in Nebraska just happened for like swimming,
Yeah.
and like you don't I understand, like you don't want to see these people who have put in so much work just to be like, oh, never mind, like the Olympics isn't happening again. Like it's a
It's
fucking bummer.
complicated. It's more
Yeah,
complicated. Yeah.
I completely get that. Um, but like it's not worth this event to put at stake the entire already crumbling infrastructure of Japan. Like it's just not worth it in my opinion. Obviously,
Yeah.
like be for everyone. But Japan has been trying so hard to maintain their outward image in other countries, like for like overseas.
Yeah.
So in America, they had the stimulus checks. We had something very similar in Japan. It was about 1 million yen, which is about a little less than $1,000. But it was supposed to be more than that. So the original plan was I think it was supposed to be 3 million yen. So it was supposed to be a little under $3,000. But instead, they took some of that like relief fund money that was supposed to be sent out to people and they pulled it together and they used it to make sure their outward image stood well. It was like in good standing with like the rest of the world. So they made sure that no one knew about what was going on here and how bad things were. Because the thing is, it's not like I was working from home last May, but cases are worse this May, and I'm going into school every day. School across the street from me had 2 cases of COVID and nothing happened. Like,
Yeah. And at school you said like they don't have to tell you when a student gets COVID. Like they
nope.
like a student could have COVID and just get sent home and they don't have to inform you or anybody in the class or the teachers that that child has COVID.
No, I mean the teachers will probably know because they just like the relationship, like the student-teacher relationship in Japan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one has to tell me. Obviously, as someone who doesn't speak fluently Japanese, um, no one has to tell me about a student that has COVID. No one has to tell me, hey, you've been in contact with this kid. You should probably go get tested. Well, and also, even if they did say that, I wasn't going to go out and spend like $400 on a test. Like,
Right. Might as well just quarantine at that point.
exactly. And that was the thing also is that we aren't allowed to travel outside of the prefecture. And so prefectures are kind of similar to like states in the US. There's 47 in Japan. I live in Ishikawa prefecture. Like Osaka is a prefecture. Tokyo is a prefecture. So we weren't allowed to travel outside of them. And if we did, we had to ask permission. And there were places like we couldn't really like go. And if we did go, we had to take a 2-week quarantine and we had to use our paid vacation time to do so. So it was like, I'm not going to waste 2 weeks of paid vacation when I only have 20 days
Mm-hmm.
to
Yeah.
sit at home and do nothing.
Right.
So,
Right. That's why I wanted to have you on here to kind of share what is going on as someone who's immersed in the country where this one of the biggest, basically the biggest event in the entire world is happening, so that people can understand what the, you know, kind of the levels of everything is at right now, because it is just like if you weren't there and I wasn't friends with you, I would not know what's going on in Japan. I would just see the Olympic trials are happening right now and watching Simone Biles be an incredible gymnast. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so excited for the Olympics. But like now I'm kind of like, you know, the Olympics are still happening. I'm probably still going to watch them, but like I'm a little nervous because things are going to unravel definitely as the Olympics are happening. So is there any other points that you wanted to make about the Olympics being in Japan this year? Don't feel like you need to
not anything. Like it's just all this information. Like
yeah, it's a lot of information.
Like another thing, like Olympians and their crew are allowed to go to like public facilities where other like just like normal people are. And so like that cross type of contamination, like I just have very little faith in the like guidelines and protocol that Japan is like trying to put in place, because their guidelines and protocol for like Japanese citizens and like the people that actually live here for the entirety of COVID has been it's been like a limp noodle. So I don't see how they would be like able to kind of drive this home. So I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, just waiting for the inevitable bomb to explode.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Yeah. And that's
I'm happy that so far you've been safe and you haven't contracted COVID, which is really just fantastic. And that makes me happy because like what kind of medical services would you get if you did get it? You just have to kind of beat it out in your
Yeah.
house or in your apartment. So overall, the Olympics are still happening. They're still going to be going down. However, with all this stuff going on, hopefully they have some kind of things in place to kind of prevent a lot of this stuff, which sounds like they may have a few things, but not nearly enough to make sure that this is a completely safe event. But Catherine, I really appreciate you sharing all this information with everybody on the podcast. Do you have anything that you want to plug before we end off our interview?
I guess if you're ever interested in any more updates about Japan, vaccinations, the Olympics, I guess you can just follow my Instagram at K_Cavanaugh.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the links to in the description or whatever. You can click on
Link
it.
in bio.
You can click the link in my bio if you want to follow Catherine on Instagram. But Catherine, thank you so much. I love you so much. I appreciate you for taking the time out of, it's my nighttime, her morning. We had to schedule this to work out correctly. But I really appreciate you coming on.
Yes, of course. It was my pleasure. I'm so excited. I was so excited to be here. So
yes, of course. All right, everyone, we are going to go back to our regular scheduled podcast programming. I know one of the best decisions I've ever made was to start this podcast, and I'm sure some of you have thought about starting one as well. But the question is always, where do you start? Buzzsprout is the best and easiest way to start your own professional podcast. They've already helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcast, including myself. They can get your podcast on every major podcasting platform. They provide you with your very own podcasting website, audio players to drop in other websites, detailed analytics, tools to promote your episodes, and so much more. Buzzsprout also publishes new blog posts, podcast episodes, and YouTube videos every week. To start your very own podcast and get a free, yes, a free $20 Amazon gift card, click the link in the show notes. Buzzsprout will know that you were sent by me, the girl who talks sports, and help support the show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Catherine. I hope it was educational. I hope you all learned something, because I certainly never knew the status of other countries in the world in terms of COVID, except for the United States, because we were trying to focus on ourselves. But as the United States started to get better within COVID, I really wanted, obviously one of my best friends is on the other side of the globe and I want to make sure she's okay. She's telling me all this stuff about Japan and I'm like, hold on a second. We're supposed to have the world's biggest event in this country and you're telling me that this is the status that you guys are in. So I'm really glad that I had Catherine on. I really hope that you all enjoyed it. And to be honest, the sports world in general has been kind of laying low a little bit. And to be honest, there hasn't been a lot to report on, hasn't been a lot to talk about. So I only got one more story for you guys today, and that's going to wrap up our episode for this week. So it is our feel-good story of the week. And to be honest, it actually is very, very heartwarming. So there is a woman. Her name is Gwen Goldman. She, when she was about 10 years old, wrote a letter to the New York Yankees baseball team asking to be the bat girl for the team. When you guys see, when you're watching baseball and people are running back and forth, grabbing the balls, grabbing the bats, all that stuff, those are they're bat boys and they just kind of clean up the field before the next guy goes up to bat and you do it specifically for each team. So she wanted to be the bat girl. And, this was 60 years ago, so it was obviously a much different time. And the GM for the Yankees, who at the time it was Roy Hammey, said basically that he was like, we'd love to have you, but there's no place for girls in the dugout. There's grown men everywhere and this and that and blah, blah. And they did not want to put her in the dugout and they didn't want to let her be a bat girl. Now 60 years have passed. She is in her 70s at this point, I'm assuming. And the Yankees reached out to her and asked her to be a Batgirl for a day. And I just think that that is the most incredible and heartwarming thing that you will hear this week. She was a lifetime Yankees fan, like no joke. Like she was all in it. And they invited her to be a Batgirl, and she even said, like, I put the bats away, my hands were sticky. Like, she was so excited about it. The pictures of her, oh my god, it made me want to cry. She is the most precious old woman. I'm so glad that the Yankees were giving her this opportunity. Brian Cashman were able to give her this opportunity to be a Batgirl and to kind of live out her dream. And I even read somewhere that she took the response letter from the GM of the Yankees at the time and pinned it like over her desk forever, for as long as she could remember, that she had almost like this rejection note from a team that was like, you can't be a Batgirl because you're a girl and we don't want you in the dugout. Like, and she took that and she basically, it just goes to show that things don't happen overnight. This woman waited 60 years for this to happen, and I think that that is a really good lesson to learn. This is just the most educational podcast I think I've ever put out. I'm giving you stats, I'm giving you COVID things, I'm giving you morals. It's a good day. So guys, that is our feel-good story of the week this week. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget, new merch is now available. Please click the link in the bio to check it out, to see if you guys want to buy anything for yourself, for your mom, for your dad, for your dog, for your girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever. Go out, buy some merch. It really just would bring me so much joy. So everybody, I can't say that yet. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, to the podcast, and once again, our social medias are TGWTS Podcast on Twitter and The Girl Who Talks Sports on both Instagram and TikTok. All right, now we can go. All right, everyone, I hope you all have a fun, fantastic, sports-filled day, and I will see you guys all next week for the biggest sports guest on The Girl Who Talks Sports in the history of the show. So I'll leave you all with that, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye!